Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Thomas of Woodstock, and we are going to hear from King Richard II to finish off Act 4, Scene 3 today. Now, at the beginning of this scene, we had the followers all pleased with themselves for how many blank charters they had been able to collect upon, and they arrested a couple of sheriffs for potentially being traitors because the sheriffs were not collecting on the blank charters the way that they should be. And all of this is happening, and it turns out that they're arresting hundreds and hundreds of people for potentially being traitors to the crown over this whole blank charter thing. But then we get news that Queen Anne has died and that the king is not taking it well, but he was getting some solace from the Duchess of Gloucester, Woodstock's wife, to whom he nearly spilled the beans that they had kidnapped Woodstock and sent him off to France, likely to die there. So the flatterers are very concerned about Richard potentially giving the plot away. So they locked him up in a separate room, but even while he was in that room, he was crying like, we got to get Woodstock back here, and like call off the hit on his life, all of these sorts of things. But in this Act 4, Scene 3, King Richard does eventually come in, absolutely distraught. And we heard from him yesterday saying that he wants to tear this whole castle down so that nobody else can ever live here in this castle where Anne died. And the ruins of this castle will stand as a monument to what a wonderful woman she was. And the flatterers are like, but you know, like she's in a better place and she's not hurting anymore. Can you take some comfort in that at least? And Richard doesn't really answer them, but instead says, send post to Calais and bid La Poule forbear on pain of life to act our sad decree. For heaven's love, go, prevent the tragedy. We have too much provoked the powers divine, and here repent thy wrongs, good Uncle Woodstock, the thought whereof confounds my memory. If men might die when they would point the time is now, King Richard would be gone. For as a fearful thunderclap doth strike the soundest body of the tallest oak, yet harmless leaves the outward bark untouched, so has King Richard struck. Come, come, let's go. My wounds are inward burn my woe. And that's the end of Act 4, Scene 3. So the first thing that he does is he starts yelling at them to go get Woodstock back from France and make sure that he doesn't get killed. He's like, we've tested the fates a little bit too much in this respect. And he even admits that he can't really even remember why he was mad at Woodstock to begin with. So he's like, we gotta get him back. But then he folds in on his grief a little bit more and gives us sort of a beautiful metaphor for what his grief feels like. He's like, you know, a lightning bolt can strike an oak and kill the inside of it while the tree still looks fine on the outside. He's like, that's me. My pain is completely internal, even though you can't see any of it. And I don't know how many of you have dealt with grief, dealt with the loss of somebody that close, but that's kind of a beautiful metaphor for it. You know, you feel like you've been completely ripped open and carved out from the inside, but nobody can tell it just by looking at you. So sort of beautiful and sort of heartbreaking. But then he's like, come on, we gotta go. We gotta fix this thing that we did. And that's the end of Act 4, Scene 3. So knowing what we know of the play Richard II and knowing what we know about how this play kind of sort of has to end, do you think they're successful in calling off the hit? Come on back tomorrow for more and we'll find out. Mwah.